Hello there, and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily. Yesterday, I talked about Greentech Amsterdam and some of the cool technology that has been exhibited there. One of the things I mentioned was drones, and I said that the guys at Corvus Drones have put together a really neat table saying where and when drones can be used in hydroponics and in horticulture. And that's good because it's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of drones. You normally think of agricultural field surveying or forestry, so you can do tree surveys without going up the tree. Horticulture, you might think there's very limited application, but there's actually quite a few. So I'll go through them. Germination and usables, it says. Now, I think Corvus mustn't be an English-speaking company because I have no idea what usable means. Usables. I think that just means how much is germinated from a seed tray. So you could fly a drone over seed trays if you were in a big enough greenhouse, if you're propagating that many plants, and you could look at germination rates. And that can be used in breeding, young plant production, and lettuce. Now, pot plants, cut flowers, orchids, tomatoes, you wouldn't really do that because they're not set up, but you could potentially look at cutting success. You could even look at tomatoes. You could look at graft. A lot of tomatoes now, commercial crops even, are grafted. And once that graft union has formed, the plants will start transpiring a lot more. So you could pick up differences in leaf temperature. So you could actually look at that with a drone that had infrared camera on it. So that would be good. You can assess growth rates. If you flew through your grow room and you had it mapped and you had AI, you could look at growth rates at a regular period, especially if it was an automated drone. So that could be used for breeding pot plants, orchids, and lettuce, they're suggesting. Readiness. When is your crop ready for harvest? They're the same pot plants and orchids. Not so much lettuce because that would be a bit on weight. Cut flowers would be on just flower development, really, and that's quite obvious visual, that one. So, and you would cut them as and when they're ready. So that would be a person. You could look at yield in cut flowers and lettuce, it's suggesting. So I'm not sure how you could measure yield. Maybe in flower buds per meter squared, you could measure yield, I suppose, in cut flowers. And lettuce, just leaf area index and things like that. Pest and disease. Now, here's a good one. Could you pick up, they're suggesting you can pick up thrips and aphids and caterpillars. So you can pick up thrips on orchids, aphids and caterpillars. I doubt you're actually picking up the thrips themselves, though. I think you're probably just looking for the silvery patterns on the leaf and then using image analysis software to determine that thrips are under attack. Aphids, again, you're looking for deformity of leaves rather than the actual aphid. Caterpillars, I guess you could pick up a caterpillar. If you've ever seen the AI cameras going through a greenhouse and spotting the ripe tomatoes, going back to readiness, that is scary how fast an AI camera can pick up a ripe tomato. And if it can pick up a ripe tomato, it can pick up a human far, far faster. And if it had a gun attached to it, it could, shoot that gun and pick up the humans are a lot faster. So that's scary, the tomato ripen ones. So fusarium, I'm guessing you're looking for signs of disease. Same with botrytis in lettuce and to strawberries, things like that. You're looking for grayness on the leaf, and that would be more like AI camera, and there would be on the drone. It's not the drone itself doing the work. Anomalies, picking up anomalies, that'd be good for breeding pot plants, cut flowers, and lettuce. Any crop really, though. Tomatoes, not so much because you're flying through a vine crop in tomatoes. So anomaly is really much, much harder. Whereas if you're thinking about young plants, pot plants, cut flowers, orchids, lettuce, you're looking top down. And that's where drones come into their own, looking at top down. Whereas vines like tomatoes and cucumbers, aubergines and peppers to some extent as well, you're probably traveling through the crop, and that would be a lot harder for the drone to pick up anomalies, but you could potentially do it. Inventory, I guess that's just number of plants for breeding young plants and pot plants. Inspection, now that's where that would be the only main use in tomatoes, cucumbers and peppers. Inspection, so like flying through the vines regularly. And then the last one, it says gutter, and then that's lettuce. I'm not sure what that means. That could potentially mean cleaning the gutters or cleaning the glass itself. Glass cleaning is not on here, but potentially that is a massive use of drones in hydroponics and horticulture, is the ability to clean greenhouses. If you think about how you would normally clean the glass on a greenhouse, it is scary. I'm scared of heights, and I wouldn't want to fall through a Venlo greenhouse. You know, these really, really tall greenhouses. The glass is extremely thin. It's horticultural glass, so it's designed to have maximum light penetration. So it's not designed to withstand a 100 kilo bloke falling on it because he's tripped over one of the gutters and while he was cleaning his glass. So I would never get up there. You'd never catch me up there. And some of the chemicals they use traditionally are really, really nasty. I think hydrofluoric acid has been used in the past. I don't know if it's still used. I doubt it. And that's a horrible... You go and look at some YouTube videos. You want to know how bad that one is. Put hydrofluoric acid, chicken leg into YouTube and you'll see a horrible, horrible video of how disgusting hydrofluoric acid is. So you don't want to be getting that on you. You certainly don't want to trip up with a bucket of it in your hand. And so if you can apply these hazardous chemicals, get up there on a greenhouse and just spray them onto your glass and clean the glass, then that would be fantastic because you can maximize your light input. Without cleaning it, you get algae and dirt build up and your yield drops significantly. So drones are a massive way of improving efficiency, reducing costs, and reducing health and safety risk, which is a massive one, on hydroponic nurseries. So drones in horticulture, I'm sure there are probably many other uses of drones. Security is another one. Obviously, you could fly them around very large greenhouses like Thanet Earth in Kent and stop people from, who might want to do your company harm and things like that. If somebody saw a drone flying at them, if they were burgling a unit, they'd probably run faster than if it was a dog, I would imagine, because you don't know what's on that drone, do you? So, yeah, you could do security. There's loads of other uses of drones. If you can think of one, let me know and I'll mention it in a follow-up podcast. An obvious one that you might think is spraying pesticide, fertilizer, or biostimulants onto the crop. And that's certainly a potential option. However, in the UK and I think in Europe, no pesticide is registered for application with a drone. I think in China, you can use a drone. Not sure about any of the countries in North America or elsewhere. That makes it difficult. And it also makes it an area where I personally don't want to get into because you have a lot of drone companies phoning you up if you're in this sort of sectors I'm in and they say, oh, are you interested in applying your fertilizer or your biostimulant using a drone? And you're like, well, no, because I don't want to be the first chump to do it because if there's a health and safety issue with, spray drift and things like this, I don't want the health and safety executive on my back. I don't want, it's attracting attention. My technology as a fertilizer manufacturer and as a biostimulant manufacturer doesn't require a drone to be applied. So I'm quite happy for other people to be the first adopters of the technology and be the test cases. So I don't need drones to deliver the product. It's not essential. It's a nice to have if it works and if it's allowed, but you don't want to be the person who puts his head on the block or her head on the block to try the new technology on behalf of the drone manufacturer. So in theory, you could put a fertilizer on. In theory, you could put a biostimulant on. You could put a macrobiological control agent, so like an insect or something like that. You couldn't put a microorganism biocontrol agent, and you couldn't put a biopesticide or a pesticide on in the UK unless it was registered for use. And they are developing ways of doing that because obviously if you can do it on a field scale, you can reduce tractor use and you could massively reduce farmer time and effort and reduce CO2 emissions and things like this. The problem is that the formulations for all the products that go on would have to be changed because of the amount of water that would have to be reduced because you obviously couldn't put 200 litres of water or 400 litres of water per hectare, which is what you would do if you had an agricultural sprayer or even a greenhouse sprayer. So you'd have to be look at a new formulation to apply any product with a drone. So yeah, drones got potential. There are very large drones now that can apply dusts and sprays, but they're very early days. And so that's one use, which in theory you think would be the first one to be used, but it's actually not. On those lists as well, one other thing they have not got is stress, environmental stress. That would be one of the first things I would look at, because I used to run a project in Lancaster University about using booms that went across hydroponic beds, and that would have a thermal imaging camera that would assess how hot the plants were to see which plants were stressed, and then only water the plants that were stressed. Now, a drone is going to be a lot cheaper than a boom with a load of thermal imaging cameras attached to every single position on the boom. So drones would be amazing for determining stress in plants. So Corvus Drones, I think you need an extra column or two for your drones, one for applying products and then one for determining environmental stress, especially water deficits. Okay, so as I say, still here at Greentech Amsterdam. If you've got any other applications for drones, let me know. Everybody else is out smoking pancakes and having fun in Amsterdam town centre. I'm the sad plonker in the hotel room recording podcasts, but I'll be the first one there tomorrow morning, because I know Greentech on the last day, there's no one there in the morning for the first hour, so I can get away with a lot of stuff I shouldn't be doing, which I'm not going to say on air just in case anyone from Greentech's listening. Okay, until tomorrow, thank you very much for listening. And if you did pick up any information from me about the podcast at Greentech, then share it with as many hydroponic and horticulturalists that you know. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.